Assalamualaikum warahmatullah everyone. Welcome back to our analysis of the United Nations Social Development Goals or Sustainable Development. And earlier we were looking at the prospect of livestock farming in Malaysia and how it can be further developed to induce people, not to make korban in the country. As for now, the price of the animals are much more expensive in the country than elsewhere. So the question here is to what extent Islamic finance can contribute to the development of the entrepreneurship in commercial farming or in commercial livestock farming that comes under SDG number 8. And we know that the social development goals of the United Nations, there are 17 of them, and the United Nations defines sustainable development as development that meets the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. So we can see that these 70 SDG goals represent the global community's next step in ending poverty, fighting inequality and injustice, and tackling climatic change by 2030. So one of the SDG goals that Islamic finance can leverage on to exhibit its specialty in the World Economic Forum, is by looking at SDG8, and that would be the focus on entrepreneurship. So we can see that decent work and economic growth are number 8, and we can see that under number 8 to promote sustained, inclusive, and sustainable economic growth, full and productive employment, and decent work for all. And we can see that further illustration by the SDG that says this sustainable development goal, that is SDG number 8, directly relates to economic productivity, supporting entrepreneurship and innovation, decreasing environmental degradation through more sustainable production and consumption. So targets such as eradicating child forced labor by 2025 and ending modern-day slavery are also included. So these are, one of the many SDG goals that Islamic finance can have a direct impact because we are dealing with financing arrangement where in the Islamic financial arrangement, under the pretext of mudarabah, musyarakah, salam, muzara'ah, so there are plentiful of opportunities for Islamic finance to present itself in the SDG ecosystem. And we do hope that the idea that I was trying to put up, which is to elevate the livestock industry, should be able to obtain sufficient conceptual ideas from Islamic finance. And these are some of the more detailed illustration of the SDG number 8, and we can see that SDG 8.3 that is to promote policies to support job creation and growing enterprises, right? So this is one of the way how Islamic finance can come in to directly contribute to the growth of business enterprises. We can also see that the United Nations General Assembly, in their conclusion with regards to the role of government, in SDG8, and they were saying that over the past 2 years, many governments introduced support scheme for businesses that by design were relatively more beneficial for larger firms. Reasons include the need to focus on large employers, on certain strategic sector. Small firms, which are often more relevant for the economy for employment in the aggregate and are often less resilient financially, should be able to gain access to support to a greater degree. So this attention given to the smaller business enterprises, the SMEs, in their role for employment creation and economic growth. So this is one way how Islamic finance can come in, to find out to what extent it is able to assist, the growth of business enterprises that the SDG8 is all about. And what I'm trying to do here is to again amplify the meaning of Albay and how it is related to the enterprise. This is very important because, for the past 40 years, Albay has been given a very unbalanced view. Albay is all about contract. Contract must be valid. It must be sahih. Contract must be free from riba, from gharar, from maisir, from pork, from alcohol. That is all the Sharia governance is able to do whenever they try to play with Albay. And after 40 years of Islamic banking and finance, we can see that the enterprise has been left behind. Too much attention has been given to the Islamic bank, and they are so much engrossed in their retail business that the business sector, the small business, were not given the same attention as the retail financing. So what we see here is to look back at Albay. Albay, as a trading and commercial transaction, projected its basic transaction in the form of buying and selling, or sale and purchase. Generally, Albay is about trading and commercial transaction. And this is why we can see the Sharia governance have been giving very, discreet attention to the validity of the contract of buy and sell. So contract validation is the focus of the current Sharia regime. However, the business side, the economic side, have not been equally attended, and so we are here to come back to the old story and how to refresh it so that people can now open their eyes to see the importance of Albay in terms of economic growth and employment, and that is the enterprise. Now the question here is, who is engaged in sale and purchase? You know very well. In sale, of course, the merchant is the one who is making the sale, and the merchant is always an entrepreneur. There's no denial about that. And then the question, who is engaged in the purchase of the goods? Of course, it will be the end consumer, people like us, but it can also be the merchant who buy the goods from the wholesaler. Right? So, in a way, in this way, Albay is all about entrepreneurship and the business enterprise. So the merchant, in order for him or her to sell the goods, the sale and purchase must be undertaken through a business enterprise. It must be a legitimate business enterprise, right? So the business need to be legitimate and licensed and so on, so that when we do buy and sell, there is a lawful and legitimate profit generated from the transaction. So Albay is all about entrepreneurship and the business enterprise. Of course, it is also about contract. It is also making sure that the contract must be free from the haram. But we must also be fair and do justice to Albay, because Albay in the Quran is compared to riba, And of course, we are not dealing whether riba contract is halal or haram, because there is a philosophical and theological meaning to albay as opposed to riba. And it's just not about the contract of riba or the contract of albay. So we must be able to, look at this albay in a more dynamic manner, so that it would jive with the SDG8 and to enable Islamic finance to play a proper role in sustainable development. Okay guys, I think we'll stop here and then we'll continue further on. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.